Comic books are a unique thing. For a medium that was supposed to initially be for children, the years have seen the superhero genre grow up alongside its readers until it's now not enough just to have your favorite characters punching people in the mouth each month. They have to offer something more mature. As that's happened, the writers, artists, and companies involved seem to have realized that the need for more adult-based stories is at a premium, and nowhere has that been more prevalent than at DC. The house that built the Bat has long tried to set itself apart from Marvel by focusing on telling a different kind of superhero story compared to their rivals, one sometimes larger than life in its approach. So, I'm Ewan from What Culture, and here are 10 powerful DC Comics endings that gave you chills. Number 10, it's only the end if you want it to be. Batgirl. When it was announced that the New 52 was coming to shake up the DC universe as we knew it, it was inevitable that some of the more regular faces beneath the cowls were going to be replaced. And whereas some of the standard bearers for the franchise ended up going silently into the dark night, looking at you, Wally West, at least they gave Stephanie Brown a proper send-off. Having survived Mercy, she meets with Oracle, who asks her what she saw while under the influence of the plant. What follows are 5 pages that show a future that, thanks to the reboot, nobody ever got to see. In this forgotten timeline, she fights side by side with all her friends, with Barbara Gordon even donning the Green Lantern ring, and Damian Wayne, the Red Lantern one, as they battle the Black Lanterns. There's even a black and white photo of them all together in 1944, fighting the good fight. But it's the very last page where the story really comes to life. After Oracle says, "That's my girl," Pollyanna to the very end, Stephanie simply replies, "It's only the end if you want it to be," before swinging off into the night. Number 9, Terra's funeral, the Judas Contract. It's a little strange to include this on here when Terra's role in the Judas Contract is to bring about the demise of the Teen Titans, but her death and the subsequent funeral is a great example of how to get people to feel empathy for a given villain. The fact is that she's nothing more than a patsy in Deathstroke's never-ending quest to destroy the Titans, and that he manipulates her mentally and physically by starting a love affair with a 15-year-old girl. Either way, this means that she shouldn't be held responsible for her actions, no matter how batshit crazy she is by the end. There's no denying that she has just as much hatred for the group as Slade does, but if it isn't for his treatment of her, then there's a huge doubt she would ever act on her own initiative, and when she's killed off, it seems that the Titans agree. At her funeral, there's a lot of tears, and the Teen Titans bury her as a hero. In doing this, they decide to never let her family know that, in the end, Terra was a bad guy, even if it wasn't all her fault. Number 8, I Believe in Harvey Dent, The Long Halloween. The Long Halloween is rightly considered one of the best Batman stories of all time, and it has one of the best twist endings that DC have ever published. It's all focused around a gang war that erupts between the Falcones and the Maronis, and as the two crime families set about wiping each other out, a new killer is soon on the scene in the form of Holiday, who's seen bumping people off left, right, and center. In the end, this war leaves both families broken and Harvey Dent transformed into Two-Face, and when it's revealed that Holiday is Alberto Falcone, it seems the whole thing is wrapped up neatly. At least until the last few pages. Hilda Dent is seemingly packing boxes as she prepares to move when she suddenly starts a monologue. She is explaining how she is, in fact, the one responsible for a lot of the killings, not all of them, that are being credited to Alberto, and that the reason that she's done this is that she wanted to be able to start a family. After she's finished burning the evidence of her crimes in a furnace, the final page sees her stood looking out of the panel and saying, "I believe in Harvey Dent." Number 7, Green Arrow's greatest enemy, The Archer's Quest. Archer's Quest is possibly my favorite Green Arrow story, and it's an emotional one at that. Brad Meltzer and Phil Hexter's comic takes the character all the way back through his history, and it's a bit of an uncomfortable experience for Ollie. He has to face unfortunate truths, understand his role in a rapidly changing DC landscape, and face a barrage of questions from those he left behind from his death. The ending, however, includes a particularly devastating moment. Flipping the age-old criticism of, "But Green Arrow doesn't have any good enemies," #lol, Queen opens up the frame he recovered from the Arrow Cave to reveal a picture of himself holding an infant Connor Hawke, declaring that himself is his greatest enemy. The last issue of Meltzer's comic is so sad. Ollie loses his nerve when proposing to Dinah, and then there's the revelation that he abandoned his own son at birth. It reiterates the character's flawed nature and how he's far from perfect, but it goes to show that Arrow is the most human hero of them all. Number 6, Broken and Done, Knightfall. Everyone knows the most famous page from this book is when Bane raises the Dark Knight above his head before breaking his back across his knee. But it isn't the last shot, and arguably, it also isn't the most powerful. No, that honor goes to the final part before you close the first volume of the massive Knightfall arc. With Batman defeated beyond all recognition, Bane calmly tosses him aside like a used tissue before proclaiming that Bruce Wayne is broken and done. And what makes it such a shock is the ramifications it has. As he's lying on the floor with Bane standing triumphantly over him, the agony etched on the Caped Crusader's face is plain for all to see. He's lost for the first time ever, and the blood that is oozing out of his mouth speaks volumes from the internal injuries that he's suffering from. He's not just defeated physically either, as Bane's reign of terror has left him psychologically scarred as well, and at the time, the reader is left wondering if Bruce Wayne will ever walk again, let alone put on the cape and cowl. Number 5, you have our father's eyes, Batwoman Elegy. In the beautiful reality where DC actually allowed Hayden Blackman and J.H. Williams III to marry Kate Kane with Maggie Sawyer, their ending would probably be here on this list. Instead, the duo didn't get the chance to finish their stint on Batwoman, with DC editorial decreeing a regressive edict that heroes can't get married. Still, that doesn't take away from the genuinely chilling ending featured in Greg Rucka's opening Batwoman arc in Detective Comics. All throughout, Kate is fighting Alice, but it's revealed right at the end, when she's hanging on the edge of an out-of-control plane, that the two are sisters. Alice stabs Kate, seemingly falls to her death, and J.H. Williams brings everything to a standstill, haunting and incredible in equal respects. Number 4, if you can live with that, Bruce Wayne can live with the responsibility. Batman Ego. Darwyn Cooke's Ego is a fascinating look at the inner workings of the Dark Knight and how both Bruce Wayne and Batman contribute to form one character. It's a big old cliche-busting tale that ends with Bruce making a bargain with his darker side that he'll never ever kill. In his own words, it's the only difference between us and them. As much as Batman is a terrifying symbol to the underworld, he is also a symbol to the good people of this city. A symbol of hope. If you can live with that, then Bruce Wayne can live with the responsibility. Number 3, there were these two guys at a lunatic asylum, The Killing Joke. And now to the one-shot graphic novel that's so important to the Joker mythology that it should have its own spot in the Library of Congress. Alan Moore's take on Mr. J is now considered by most as the definitive version, and with it, he sets a few things in stone. First off, there's his backstory as a failed comedian. There's also the fact that he's the one responsible for Barbara Gordon ending up in a wheelchair, and there's the end page where he makes the usually stoic Batman suffer a fit of giggles. Or does he? If you consider everything that the Joker puts Batman and his allies through, what with severed spines, unbelievable torture, and attempting to drive James Gordon mad, it seems a little out of character for the Dark Knight to share a joke with him. No, instead there's a different train of thought, that instead of leaning on the Joker as he doubles up in fits of hysterics, Batman is, in actual fact, strangling him, finally deciding to take the law into his own hands and kill the monster he helped to create. Number 2, I'm sure we'll think of something. All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman is Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely at their best, and it's the greatest way to get any non-comic book reading friends you might have into reading The Man of Steel. It has everything: action, romance, and the ultimate sacrifice. And when it looks like the whole thing is going to end on a downer, the last page gives you hope that the Man of Steel will return. When the Earth is threatened by the sun breaking down, Superman takes matters into his own hands. Having been exposed to lethal amounts of radiation when he saves Dr. Leo Quintum and his team as they explore the big fiery skyball, Superman's powers grow stronger and stronger. In fact, they are getting so strong that they are going to consume him. But before this happens, he saves the day from Lex Luthor's clutches one last time. With all threats neutralized, there's only one thing left for him to do, and he flies off into the sun to help kickstart it back into action. Even though the world mourns his loss, it is Dr. Leo Quintum who has the answer to a world without Superman, and that's whatever lives behind the door with a giant number 2 on it. And number 1, we cannot fail that trust, and we cannot fail to try. The New Frontier. Darwyn Cooke's The New Frontier is my favorite comic book of all time. Naturally, the ending is also wonderful. An amazing look back at the golden and silver ages of comics and at Cold War era America, Cooke's opus roots its idea of the American hero within the context of JFK's New Frontier speech. Kennedy's speeches were peerless, but Cooke chose one from before he became president, delivered at the 1960 Democratic National Convention. There, Kennedy promised to deliver a new frontier, boundless in its ambition and reach, to tackle uncharted areas of science and space, unsolved problems of peace and war, and unanswered questions of poverty and surplus. The new frontier was here whether you were ready for it or not, and it's the exact challenge Cook's heroes rise to in the finale. Told in stunning splash page after splash page, he marries Silver Age iconography with the rhetoric of Kennedy's greatest proclamation, a stunning achievement in every sense of the word.